Hi, friends. I thank you your being in this online space with me for an interview about the conference 2019 EAGT Gestalt conference. And I'm very happy that I have a possibility, a chance to give some questions about the process. And my first question would be, how are you in the process of the organizing the conference? As we both know, and hopefully some people also know, that we are 6 people in the organizing team, and you are the boss, let's say.
No. For me, no. That's for me clearly that Judith is in that way the leading person. I'm just the bridge, the one who synchronizes or coordinates between EAGT, board, executive committee, and the organizers from Hungary. And in that sense, from the beginning, I like to participate in building up the conference, and at moments when it was necessary, it was very useful to go back to the people in the board of the EAGT, like Nurit or like Miguel, who have this experience of the last conference. Hey, how did you do that? With Jack, of course, the treasurer. Hey, how did you do last time with scholarships? And but I also like the communication. I must say that just this week, Judith and me, we said to each other, wow, we synchronize very well, because some moments I write something to her and almost our emails cross each other, that she has the same idea. And we are both people who respond to emails very fast. So at this moment, we are in the process of collecting the feedback on the proposals. And this week or next week, we will look at all the feedback. And that will be, I forgot a bit the word, but let's say, in a way, exciting, but also challenging. Like, how many yes do we have, and how many yes no or no-nos do we have? Of course, we hope that we have a lot of yes, that we can build up a very good program. And that is something I look forward to, but also see as a huge challenge how to fit in all the workshop presentations, panels into a program that people say, wow, this is wonderful. First of all, what comes up in me is the work I was doing for about 25 years, working with people who were suffering from cancer. And the fact that cancer came into their life, how they deal with that. And my support as a counselor is a lot of staying in this fertile void where you really don't know, and you really have the challenge to see what comes from this void. And so that's the first thing that comes up. And for me, I started that work right after my Gestalt training. And it gave for me a very, very new, but also valuable, how can I say, dimension to the Gestalt approach. That to be able to stay with a person in this not knowing. So that is for sure one. But also in other therapy situations, for me, it was always this trusting the process, or as some colleagues call it, to lean into the process, to trust that you don't know, and stay with it, that something will come out, even if it's not what you expect or like, or that is. So, and another example is, of course, my work in organizations. When I think of team coaching or in individual coaching, but for sure in team coaching, where sometimes there is a conflict. And for me also, in a conflict, it is the big challenge to have the courage as the coach, but also to ask from the team, let's stay with this for a moment. Let's not jump into conclusions, solutions, or whatever it is. Let's stay, let's see what is the conflict about, what is maybe the broader sense of the conflict. Can we see how it relates to other aspects of the organization, etc. And when I train the topic of conflict, I always use the metaphor of sailing in my little sailing boat, that the more experience you have as a sailor, the more you trust yourself, the more you know your boat, you can trust your boat, and then you can do quite risky things. And in that way, it's also dealing with the versatile void in a conflict situation. The more you have the experience of how far you can go, how far you can trust it, how far you can lean into it, the more still you can be relaxed, even if you don't know, and even if everybody's looking at you, bring the solution because this is a waste of time. You can let's say, keep the people at that point of no, let's not. So for me, that is another example.
Mm-hmm.
And a third example, and that is for me a very nice combination that I already also work for about 20, 30 years, I think, is part of my professional life is to work as a clown. And the clown and the Gestalt is very close to each other, because the clown is also a person who doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't play a clown, you have to be a clown. And to stay in, again, this fertile field, you go on stage or you're in the street and you don't have a program and you just see what comes up in this meeting with the audience. What pops up? Do you get an impulse? Can you follow the impulse? Because if you start to program and you think you need to be funny, it will not work, so to say.
Yeah.
So for me, on many levels, I'm interested in this topic.
Yes, sounds wonderful. So it's a high level of awareness and a huge braveness is necessary, right?
For me, yes. I think that is also Ed Nevis, one of the leading persons in Gestalt and organizations. He said you can see the difference between a professional and a beginner, or an experienced professional and a beginner, is also the courage to stay with the awareness, and of course the broadness of the awareness, but also this let's say courage or braveness to trust the process. Because I can imagine for a beginner, when you're confronted with the fertile void, you want to run away and you jump maybe to other approaches who give a solution.
Yeah, for sure, yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I always say to students, nothing wrong with other approaches. And if you sometimes include elements from other approaches, but don't do it to escape from the fertile void. Because then you maybe just kill what could happen.
Yeah, but we easily escape.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
So, that's the awareness which can be the source of the change of the world. And
exactly.
At this point, I would like to ask you, how do you see Gestalt methodology influence onto the world? What Gestalt can represent in the world nowadays?
Well, it's a very difficult one because even this morning we had a small conversation with some people from the Intagio group. That is also a group around Gestalt and organization. And we were speaking about some social political situations. A colleague from Israel, well, you know, your own situation in your country. And in that way, I think that, yes, Gestalt is an approach where we want to stay in the middle ground instead of, again, coming to quick solutions or quick statements. A conflict like Israel with the Palestinians, it's very easy to say, oh, this should done, this should go, but then you deny the complexity of the situation. But to be able to say, oh, wait, let's stay in this middle ground. It doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion, but first breathe in and take it in. I think Gestalt has to offer that, but not that I say that I don't have the arrogant illusion that we are able to solve the conflicts in the world. No way, no way. It would be wonderful, but I don't have that illusion. But I think we have, I always say that for me, on this 1 square meter where I'm walking around, at least I can bring my point of view. At least I can invite people to stay in this middle ground, not to jump in quick solutions. And where it can offer something to where I am in that moment, I love to do it. I have given presentations or lectures, even in Israel or in other countries. And I proposed also one for the conference in September, what I call something like sacred cows. I don't know if you know that expression, but the expression of sacred cows is like in India, the cow is sacred. So even if there's a huge traffic jam, nobody will move the cow. So also in our thinking or in our cultures, we have sacred cows, things that we do not touch. And for me, Gestalt can help to at least bring awareness to people about the sacred cows, about the underlying assumptions, about the restrictions that they have sometimes in thinking, in operating. So yes, I think we can contribute there.
Yeah. So because the fear, the fight and tension between individuals in the world comes from fear mostly. If we are train ourselves and people for staying longer in the process, or even in fertile void, and just watch it and avoid, so there is no chance fear to rise up, right? In this case, it's a huge influence for the world that we don't let the fear arising in the situation, in the process. We have courage to stay with the nothing, with the not knowing.
Yeah, and in a way, and I think this is also something from Gestalt, is that awareness helps us to not being completely identified with our fear, or not being completely identified with just one pole. Just before our meeting, I had a meeting with a colleague also on Skype, and we spoke about polarities and how to deal with polarities in organizations. Instead of jumping in one pole or try to find a solution for the polarity. Also, like you say, in the world, there's a lot of polarities. And how can we help people to take a step back and not jump into one pole to solve the fear or to get away from the fear, which may lead to a very simple solution on the short term, but in the end, it will not bring anything. That is, but I, in that way, I'm realistic, maybe a bit pessimistic, but if I see, let's take just as an example, what happened recently, that Trump defined Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel and put the embassy there, or what he did with the occupied areas. Even if you don't agree or agree on it, everybody involved who has a bit of common sense says this is so damaging for the whole process. And that's what I mean. That is the time that we are living in. And that is very hard. We can only bring, wherever we are, we can bring the nuances. We can invite people to lean back and look from more than one perspective. But it's not an easy process. That is,
yes, I feel lucky to be on this field and have a chance to work with awareness, even mine and even others.
Yeah.
Frans, do you mind if I switch a little bit on a personal territory in your life? I'm really curious. For example,
Yeah, no problem.
no? So
Yeah.
what attracted you first to Gestalt methodology? What was your first sensation about the methodology?
Well, I think it was partly intuitive that when I was studying pedagogics, I came in touch with some Gestalt books, and I started to read them, and I recognized some of my own ideas, political ideas, but also again the ideas of, for sure, the anarchistic, but also the philosophical side of the Gestalt, and somehow it attracted me. And I'm not one who came to the Gestalt by first, let's say, some years of personal therapy. I really came into the Gestalt by more the cognitive part, because I was studying in the university, and I thought, what shall I do? Shall I make a next step in the university? And then I had the need, no, I want to be more in touch also with my emotional side. Cognitive was quite well developed, but I had the need also. And then I came in touch with that Gestalt Institute where I did my training later. And yes, it brought me more balance in emotional cognition, body also. And it was an answer to a big need. And just last week, I was talking with a friend. We have a friendship for 40 years. And we were just reflecting, what if we had made another choice at that point? Or what if we had made another choice at that point? And for me, for sure, what if I, somewhere during the 70s, made another choice and not went into the Gestalt? Yeah, I think my life would have looked completely different. So I'm very happy with the choice. And of course, the Gestalt in the 70s and early 80s is different, at least in my country, than how it is brought now. But still, it has brought me a lot.
Yeah.
That's,
Sounds great. And what kind of patients do you like to work with the most?
what kind of?
Clients do you like to work with the most?
Well, like I said, I worked about 25 years with people with cancer, and that was a huge, how can I say, value, huge inspiration. And it helped me also to ask some very fundamental questions in my own life, where you support people in looking back on their life, making up the score. Of course, in those days, I was something like, let's say, 35, 40 years old. I also asked myself, hey, wait, if I ask my client, how do you look back? How am I dealing with my choices? Mm-hmm. So that was a very important part of clients. But I also did a lot of work for the Dance Academy in Rotterdam and Conservatorium. So these young people who are, let's say, what Erickson would call in their identity confusion, dealing with a lot of introjects and to somehow get aware of it. I also like that. And a third group, but it's maybe a bit connected to the first, is that I noticed in my life that older people, and so I speak of clients of 70 or 80 years old, yeah, I can feel a lot of warmth towards them, respect how they were leading their life, and how now at that point they are looking back, finding new challenges or new way of living. I remember a client, he was already 80 years old and could not stop working. Mm-hmm. And he came to me because he was desperate in the sense of, I really want to relax and I cannot relax because not working, doing nothing is meaning useless, being useless. And so to support a man like that in that process was also fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. And what plans do you have for the next year? Because this year probably is full of work with conference.
Well, it's a combination, Olivia. It's a combination of course, for me, the Gestalt is still interesting because I can still learn a lot. And so in the therapy perspective, to learn again more and more about how can you look at psychopathology in a relational, field-oriented way. I feel I can still learn a lot from that. So that is one of my challenges. I am invited to develop programs like a supervision program for Finland, a program on organizations in Ukraine. So these are, again, also very nice challenges. And on the other hand, I really enjoyed being at home a bit more to enjoy my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning, I went to a very nice park with two of my grandchildren. Tomorrow, I will go to the zoo with another grandchild. And I notice how much pleasure that is. So that is also a sort of challenge to be able to say no to invitations, because it's always very nice for the ego to be invited. But sometimes to say no, because I prefer to spend more time at home. That is, so it will be a combination of, if something comes on my way and it looks interesting and challenging, I will do it. And more, I let go of things that I already did 100 times. That is, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds really good. At the same time, as I know, you are just in the process of releasing a book, right?
The book is published. It is published, I think, 4 weeks ago. It is a book that Margarita Spagnola-Lob and me edited. And it's a collection of something like 16, 17 colleagues who write from their expertise on Gestalt in organizations. So it is Gestalt approaches with organizations. And yeah, really, we are very happy that colleagues with a lot of experience contribute to this book. And also the nice thing of the book is that every chapter is commented by another person from the organizational world. So there is a piece of theory, practice, reflection on the practice, and yes, so we really hope this will contribute to the development of Gestalt in organizations, because there's a lot to do there, and we have very enthusiastic colleagues working in that field. So I hope they will be enthusiastic about the book.
It sounds like an essence of a Gestalt session, but you mentioned all the phases, like experiment and theory and process, like, and everything. So, and we can get on the conference, so we will meet with this book.
For sure. We will have it on a table in the conference. And like I said, next week, in 2 weeks, I go to Ukraine to start the program there. So I will take some with me, of course. And of course, it's also possible to order it on the website from the publisher. It's the publisher that Margarita is connected to and published most of the books that she is editing or writing. That is,
So congratulations again.
Thank you. Yes.
It's really great to have such a book, mainly because it's an OD, and which is really like a rare one.
Exactly. That is, there's not so many books as in the therapy. There are more than people think, because many people think that there are no books on Gestalt in organizations. Well, we have very good ones. But of course, that's the same as in the conferences. The main focus is on Gestalt therapy. But I'm very happy that also now in the conference we have several proposals also on presentations, workshop for Gestalt in organizations.
Yes.
That is,
Yes, Frans, can I ask you something about India? Because as I see through Facebook, you really like to be there and to travel around in India. And as I know, you have some work there also.
Yeah, but
do I know that?
you make a little mistake. It's Nepal.
Oh,
the name
sorry.
country. No, but it's okay. I'm also involved in India, but what you see on Facebook is mostly Nepal.
Oh,
And yeah, it's fantastic work. We do that now about, let's say, 9 years. We were invited by a Nepali psychologist who was interested in Gestalt. And to make a long story short, we went there to see the situation, to discuss the possibilities, and of course the restrictions. And we decided to start a Gestalt training, a 4-year training according to the EAGT standards, because that's what they wanted from us.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now so far that already group number 4 is running in their 2nd year.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we already have a group of graduates. And the nice thing, but also the challenging thing is, of course, that Gestalt, in a way, is very opposite of the culture, where Gestalt is much more about making the implicit more explicit. The culture in Nepal is keeping things as much as possible implicit.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, for the students, it's sometimes very challenging. But this is open for discussion, dialogue. So we have, of course, a program, but many times we adjust the program to the actual situation there. You can imagine in 2015 with the earthquakes in Nepal, that we did a lot on trauma, family, loss, and then you forget, or not forget, but you put the program aside. And but it's fantastic work.
Wow,
really.
it was wonderful then. So you really did that decision to take a part of the course itself, and you started to work because there was an urgent need.
Yes, for sure. So our work now is, of course, first of all, the Gestalt training program, but because more and more we got involved in other projects, I must name my colleague Greet Cassiers from Belgium, who is very good in fundraising. And so she did fundraising. She's still doing fundraising. So we were able to support people in building a new house after the earthquake, or providing clothes. So these kind of projects. I'm involved in some projects for children there. So because you get more and more contacts, we get also more involved in the society. But for us, the leading principle is that we ask students to advise us where to connect or not to connect, where to sponsor or not to sponsor. Because before you know, you let's say interfere with cultural or socio-political situations and bring more damage than that you actually bring a benefit to them. So that is
a huge challenge, in the current environment, to deal with individuals whose really needs and responses can be so different. So even you have a process with the students that they are like to keep things implicit, right? But they, as a next therapist, they will have the same kind of heaviness with their clients, even because
of course that is. I wrote an article. I did not publish it, but an article for students and for colleagues, and I call it "The Curse of Awareness." Actually, the title comes from Sonia Nevis, but becoming aware is a wonderful thing when the field conditions are there to, let's say, to do something with the awareness. But to become aware in a situation where the field conditions are rather restricting or limiting, it makes you more unhappy, so to say. So that is what we are confronted with in working with students, that we see that. I remember a seminar I gave on the contact mechanisms, and how really shocking it was for several students to realize how they were retroflecting so long time already, or how much deflecting their whole society is. And like you say, of course, that is what they also meet with clients. Where can I, how can I say, where it's not totally adjusting, but how can I work with clients in a situation that change is almost impossible? We're still talking about the country where arranged marriages is a very normal thing. So we also see students coming in the training as, let's say, a happy young girl, and a few years later, they're in an arranged marriage. And some of them, thank God, are still happy, but some of them are really in a very restricted situation. So that is a reality we are confronted with, and for sure, where the students are living in.
Yes, so congratulations
I always,
for that also.
Yeah, I always say I go home after 3 weeks or after 3 months. That depends how long I'm there, but they are there all the time. So
yeah,
that is
huge work. And taking on the responsibility and the teaching process in such an environment, there is such a huge need for that. Congratulations so much.
Thank you.
Frans, back to the conference.
Yes.
Right now we have close to 600 registered visitors, and we have close to 180 submitted workshop proposals.
Yeah.
So it sounds really wonderful numbers. At the same time, the work just starts right now. The huge part really is now these days and the next couple of weeks. And I would like to ask you if there is any message to the participants you would like to send them. Like, what do you think about the possibility to meet in September? Why do you recommend the participants to come, or the people who are just in hesitation position? So is there anything you would?
Well, first of all, I have seen many of the proposals, of course. So in that way, I think it will be, again, a very inspiring conference. I have very positive memories to all the other Gestalt conferences I went to. Inspirational in the sense of content, what people offer. So that is already wonderful. But I also really would stimulate people to go, because it's a wonderful opportunity to meet colleagues, to have small talks or larger talks during a dinner, during a coffee break with colleagues from all over Europe, and sometimes even from other parts of the world, like the US or China or whatever. So to meet people, to get new ideas, to be inspired by also lectures, inspired in the sense of that it confirms you in what you already thought, or what you were thinking about, and then you go to a lecture or a presentation, you think, wow, this is exactly what I thought. Oh my God, I feel so supported by this. So that is for me a very important one. I think that Budapest, I was there now a couple of times, and if you go, take at least 1 or 2 extra days to visit the city, because I didn't know how beautiful it was when I came there the first time. It is also beautiful. So next to the conference, it's very nice to go there also. But when I just stick to the conference, again, for me, it's always so nice to see so many colleagues. The atmosphere is most of the times very good. Of course, in Taormina, it was very crowded, because I think we had something like 1,300 people. This time, 700. So for some people, it will be better, because they felt overwhelmed in Taormina. But on the other hand, Taormina was a success, because we had this combination with the EAGT, also 2 totally different cultures meeting each other. But the meeting, the dialogue, the like I said, the content. Yes, that would be for me the most important reasons to come and join us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we also will have a love in the air and a huge
Of course.
together.
And let's be honest, OLivia, in the end, there will always be people who are complaining.
Oh, let's forget them right now.
No. For me, that is part of if you can't stand people who are complaining, then you should not organize a conference. There will be always something to complain. Yeah. Maybe just a coffee or whatever it is. But
but at this point, would you say something about the venue, because you already visited?
Yes.
Right?
Well, I was in the venue. I think that people showed us how professional they are in organizing conferences, meetings. You could see the way they lead us around, the rooms, the workplaces that we can have, the meeting rooms, they look very good. The big hall is very good. What I noticed during my staying in that hotel also is that very friendly staff, always willing to help us, even if it was just to bring some extra glasses or but also in that way, good space, good food, good service, and I agree that is also very important, because a conference can be wonderful quality, but if the logistics around it, like food, coffee breaks, things like that, are not okay, then people will also, it will influence the atmosphere. So I think you as the Hungarian team chose this venue, and I think you had a good choice here. And we can only hope that they realize what we sensed during the meetings we had with them. That is